Welcome to Mojo Plays, and today we're looking at the most stressful moments, levels, and boss fights in the Donkey Kong series. But before we dive in, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Snow Barrel Blast, Donkey Kong Country. Thought of by many to be the hardest level in the original Donkey Kong Country, we have to say we agree. A level set on top of a mountain brings the expected stress inducers. The ground is slippery with ice and features more than a few slanted sections, making it easy to slide into a parade of oncoming enemies or one of the many pits. The blizzard also gets thicker as you progress, obscuring your vision. Then there are the tricky blast barrel sections that require extreme patience and timing. Snow Barrel Blast forces you to take your time while barraging you with elements that make it hard to do so. You've got all the ingredients necessary for losing lots of lives. Crowded Cavern, Donkey Kong Country returns. If you thought the minecart sections in the original Country games were hard, Returns brought a whole new level of hell with rocket barrels. And of all those, Crowded Cavern is the most tense. You're being chased by a gigantic bat while a bunch of what we can only assume are its babies fly at you from the front. Meanwhile, the cavern around you is falling apart, littered with obstacles to avoid. While the giant bat's bites can't actually reach you, you won't know that while playing, and it will eventually fire off sonic blasts. There are so many causes of death flying at you throughout that your hands will soon grow clammy and you'll be swearing at the TV. King Krusha K. Rool, Donkey Kong 64. To call the final boss fight of Donkey Kong 64 long would be a huge understatement. King K. Rool faces all 5 of the Kongs one at a time. You can't just attack him regularly, as each round has different mechanics. And since they're all timed and your ability to deal damage only appears at certain moments, there's almost no room for error. Putting a time limit on each round, even if it is 3 minutes, makes it so it's easier to make mistakes. And it isn't as if he doesn't put up a tough fight. Things don't start off too bad with DK, but Diddy and Tiny have the hardest roles. Plus, if you run out of time or one of the Kongs runs out of health, you start all over. Bopopolis, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. A surefire way to stress your players out in a platformer game is to limit the ground they can actually stand on. Case in point, Bopopolis from Tropical Freeze. Most of the level consists only of enemies whose heads you use to hop between them. Even the platforms that divide these sections start to crumble and fall the moment you land on them. So, you have no time to plan what you're going to do. The whole level is just go, go, go. Naturally, it takes a lot of trial and error, and a ton of falling into a bottomless pit before you can reach the other side. Toxic Tower, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest. A lot of old-school platformers feature a vertical level where some kind of danger constantly rises from the bottom, forcing you to climb to safety. And they are always the most frantic and stressful. In Diddy's Kong Quest, that level is Toxic Tower. Here, the hazard is Toxic Waste, and you transform into 3 animal buddies for different sections. The hardest of these is actually the first, Rattly the Rattlesnake, because if you mess up a jump, either to a high-up platform or off of an enemy's head, you're basically done for. Squawks has it easiest since he can fly, and Squitter can at least make their own platforms. Still, the threat of constant danger makes the entire thing nerve-wracking. Perilous Passage, Donkey Kong Country Returns. Naturally, Returns is a continuation of the older games in many ways, and it too has an extremely hard vertical climb where instant death chases you. This time, it's lava. You aren't forced to play as animal buddies, but that certainly doesn't mean the Kongs have it any easier. When not worrying about being snuffed out by the rising magma, you also have to look out for falling platforms and flaming enemies that roll down the walls. From the start, it's constant tension, and that's especially the case if you're trying to collect all the hidden puzzle pieces. Also, screw those stupid invincible electric bees that chase you around towards the end of the level, as if things weren't stressful enough already. Coin Dozer Clamber, Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. Do you like falling into pits when it isn't your fault? No, of course you don't. And that's what makes this level such a drag. In Coin Dozer Clamber, Dixie and Kitty must try their hardest to avoid being rammed by annoying little Kremlings who bash them with shields to knock them away. Since Coin Dozers angle their shields towards you, you can use them as platforms. But if you don't land on them just right, you'll bounce in the opposite direction. They're often placed right next to pits too, so you'll get pretty used to dying over and over again. Thankfully, Dixie can hover to slow down each jump, but since each jump comes with the risk of death by these little twerps, it's undeniably frustrating. Beaver Bother, Donkey Kong 64. There are a lot of mini-games in Donkey Kong 64, and not all of them have aged well. But Beaver Bother is in a league of its own, and deserves to burn in the lowest pits of the underworld. I am not exaggerating, even the game's staunchest defenders dread having to play this garbage. The rules are simple enough, as you control a claptrap trying to herd beavers into a hole. But you only have 60 seconds, and it genuinely feels broken. The beavers will often stop right at the edge before turning a different direction, as if there's some invisible barrier ushering them away. If you try to get close to force them in, chances are good you'll fall right in yourself and have to start over. Worse, this game appears 3 times. So if you want all the golden bananas, you'll be putting yourself through a lot of stress and rage with this one. Jagged Jewels on Mirror Mode, Donkey Kong Country Returns. After beating each hidden level in each of the game's worlds, and then beating the golden temple that unlocks afterwards, you'll get Mirror Mode in Donkey Kong Country Returns. This lets you replay the game with levels flipped, but locks Diddy Kong and makes it so you die in one hit. Any level in this mode is understandably more stressful, but the peak is Jagged Jewels. There are spikes either surrounding or coming out of every single surface here. With so many things to avoid, the stage is pretty hard already. But in Mirror Mode, without the safety net of Diddy's jetpack to hover between jumps, and the prospect of one mistake meaning you start all over, this is a nightmare. Lord Frederick on Hard Mode, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. In a similar vein, if you beat every level in Tropical Freeze, you unlock Hard Mode. While levels aren't flipped and you're allowed to choose your character, you still die in one hit. Naturally, Lord Frederick, the final boss, and already one of the hardest bosses in the series, makes for an exceptionally frustrating challenge here. He's fought across 3 phases. While the first isn't too bad, it's when he begins freezing the ground during the second, making your movement harder, that you'll be in trouble. If you reach the third, one of the quick-moving ice dragons he fires will probably do you in. A hard fight with only a single hit health bar is going to truly test whether you're worthy of the game's coveted 200% goal. Did we leave off any other stressful moments that made your heart rate skyrocket? Be sure to share your experiences with us in the comments.